Hello, Allie LaPere here. Today I'm going to show you different ways to blend the Tombow dual brush pens. These markers are so versatile and the absolute best for blending. There are a few different methods to get through, so let's get started. For this video, I'll be using the dual brush pens that come in the bright 10 pack. It's my favorite, but it's just one of the many perfectly crafted color palettes that Tombow has to offer. For the first and easiest technique, I'm actually going to be using the blending palette that Tombow makes. It is for sale on their website individually or as part of their blending kit. First, I take the dark purple color, number 636, and apply it directly to the blending palette. Then I take the color 493, which is a lighter blue, and just brush right over top of that purple ink. And then I apply it directly to the paper. As you use the blue marker, the purple ink that you picked up from the blending palette will get lighter and lighter as you use it. The more you go back to the blending palette to pick up ink, the darker your color will be, and the more varied your blend will be. And that's really it for this method. Now let's move on to the next. For the marker to marker method, we don't require any blending palette or any colorless blender. What we do is just use the markers to drag the ink around. So I started with my 636, that dark purple. Now I'm dragging it with the 665, which is kind of a medium magenta color. And you can see as I'm dragging it, it's getting lighter and lighter. After that, I'm going to be taking the 743, which is a lighter pink color, to drag that magenta color down. Now this technique really only works with colors that are kind of close to each other on the color wheel. You wouldn't want to do this with blue and orange because you'd get some funky brown color in between. It wouldn't look very good, it wouldn't look smooth. So you have to pick colors that go together, like these ones, or a red, orange, and yellow. You get the idea. If they're close on the color wheel, they're going to work with this method. I also want to take this opportunity to talk about my technique and how I'm using the brush pen, because half of blending really has to do with how hard you are pressing down your marker onto the paper. You can see that I'm hardly pushing down the marker at all. I'm applying very little pressure down onto the paper. I don't want to oversaturate the paper because it'll start to bunch up. The ink will eat right through the paper if you're not careful, especially when you're applying multiple layers of ink. The other methods that we're going to be talking about in this video are going to require even more layers of ink technically, because we're going to introduce the colorless blender into the mix. So keep that in mind as we go forward. The colorless blender, or marker number N00, is a clear marker. The ink that comes out is going to be clear. So all you have to do for this blending technique is lay down a color. In this case, I'm using the 493 color again, that blue. And I apply the colorless blender over top of that blue, move it, drag it until it runs clear, until all the ink has been spread as far as I can make it go. This colorless blender marker makes it possible to make basically any color you want with the dual brush pens. I only have one blue here, but look how many shades I'm able to produce just by blending it out with that colorless blender. It's such a handy tool. I don't have to rely on each individual color that comes in a set, because I'm limitless with the colorless blender. I can make any color I want. And this method is just one of the few that I'm going to be going through that utilize the colorless blender. So let's get on to the next one. The next method that I'm going to show you is great if you're using the dual brush pens for calligraphy. I start by drawing a letter Y with my yellow, number 055, and I'm going to go over that letter with the dark pink, the 755, and then use the colorless blender to drag that dark pink over top of the yellow base. So really light with my brush strokes, and then dragging that dark pink ink down the letter. Just like with the example before that used the colorless blender, the dark pink ink is going to run clear eventually. So the more that you're using the colorless blender, the farther that you're dragging out your darker ink, the clearer it's going to run, and eventually it'll blend right into the original color. All right, now let's get to a blending method that uses all the colors. Okay, maybe not all, but a lot of them. 755, 933, 055, 173, 493, 636, and of course, N00, our colorless blender. Okay, I start off by using the 755, and I'm just, laying down the ink lightly, remember lightly, and then I'm going to take the colorless blender and try to run it out so it's basically clear. It doesn't have to be 100% clear, but it's got to be close. Next, I'm going to take the 933, so kind of a light orange color, and I'm going to lay down some ink and then drag it up towards the pink, that dark pink, and use my colorless blender really gently to get rid of any overlap between the two colors. I'm going to continue going forward with my orange, that 933, and then take my yellow to blend directly over it. So this isn't using the colorless blender. Because the colors are so similar, I'm able to go from orange to yellow without having to add the extra layer that the colorless blender would add. Things are going to change though in a second, because this green to yellow, it's going to be a little tricky. Once I've used the colorless blender to make the yellow 055 color run clear, I add the green over top. These two colors are pretty similar in terms of their tone. The yellow's light and the green is light, so I have to try to make sure that I make the green almost a little darker so it's easier to blend into the yellow. So you can see some darker green there. I'm gonna add a little bit of ink over top, kind of a second layer green, and try to get it to blend out a little more evenly. And thanks to the colorless blender, I did it! Yay! Okay, I'm gonna finish off with that green, the 173 green, and move into the colorless blender, dragging the rest of the green ink out until it runs clear. And then I'm going to take the 493, that blue color again, and I'm going to go back into the green with that color. And you guessed it, colorless blender, going back over into the green, try to get that smooth gradient. Look at that. Going back with the blue, gonna go forward until I'm ready to go on to the last color, which is going to be the 636, that dark purple color. I'll blend it out with the colorless blender. Make it run clear and in with the purple. So hopefully by now you can see that I wasn't lying about how versatile these markers are. You're able to do a bunch of different techniques with just one pack of markers. And when you're using the colorless blender, the color possibilities are endless. So, in conclusion, whether you're using the blending palette, using the marker to marker technique, or using the colorless blender, the Tombow dual brush pens are the best for achieving smooth, beautiful blends. Make sure to check out blog.tombowusa.com if you want to learn more about how to use these markers, and check out tombowusa.com if you want to get some for yourself. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.